Well, guys, this week on the show, we have a guy called Dre Baldwin. He's based in Miami, Florida. He's spent a lot of time as a pro athlete traveling around the world playing basketball. He's a mindset coach. And I said, I'd love to come in, have him on the show to talk about mindset, talk about habits, rituals, routines, all those good things. Great to have you on the show.
I'm excited to be here, Sinjin. Thank you for having me on.
You're so welcome. So welcome. So, Dre, tell us a little bit about your background.
Sure. I come from the city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Now I live in Miami, Florida. I've always been in sports. Growing up, played a little bit of American football and then some baseball. Never was either not that serious or never was that good at either one of those sports. Eventually got into basketball around age 14, which is pretty late if you're trying to advance in a sport, like play college or play pro, let alone. But that was my situation. Only played 1 year high school ball. I didn't really play that much that 1 year that I played, sat on the bench. And then going into college, I went and played at a Division III school, which is the third tier of college sports. It's not a level that usually produces pro athletes or even pro aspiring players. But again, that was the situation. Played college ball, got out of college. Nobody was really thinking about me as a pro player because of my pedigree, because of my background, and because not like I played in college, but I didn't set the world on fire even at the Division III level. So my first year out of school, worked a couple of regular jobs, quote unquote. I worked at Foot Locker selling sneakers, worked at Bally Total Fitness, was the gym over here, selling gym memberships. And then to give everybody a timeline here, this was a year after graduating college. I went to this event called an exposure camp, which is like a job fair, but for athletes. And you pay to go to this event. And it's basically like a casting call where everyone who thinks they're good enough to play pro, but they're not, they play with and against each other for a chance to impress somebody who can help them start their career, because the audience is a bunch of agents, managers, scouts, etc. So I played pretty well at this event. It was a 2-day event. I played pretty well at that event, got a good scouting report, some footage from that event. Went back home. The camp was in Orlando, Florida. So then I had to go back home to Philadelphia because I had to be back at work because I had to take a weekend off from work to go to this event. Went back to work on Monday and I started cold calling basketball agents. Because the agents are, just like in every other industry, the agent is the go-between between the job opportunity and the talent. So I needed an agent. And usually in sports, when you're really good to play pro, the agents are calling you and you get to pick your agent. But yeah, I had to call them because nobody knew me. So I basically had to sell myself to an agent. And I reached out to about 60 agents. I was literally cold calling agents in the summer of 2000. And out of the 60 that I cold called, about 20 I got in touch with. They said, send me what you have. I sent them my footage and my scouting report. Now, that footage was on this thing called a VHS tape. So I was making copies of the VHS tape and mailing that in a bubble mailer envelope out to agents. So the 20 agents I sent my tape to, one of them I was able to get in touch with again. And he said, I will represent you. So 60 agents got one person to say yes. That's all I needed was one. And he helped me get my career started. So in the summer of 2005, I got my first contract, which was in Lithuania, Kaunas, Lithuania in 2000. Now, the parallel to that story there, Sinjin, was I took that footage because I knew that VHS tape, those things are fragile. You drop it, you leave it in the water, leave it in the sun, you lose it, you lost the footage. So I heard this new website said you could put as much footage up as you want for free. So I took the VHS tape to an audiovisual store. They put it on a data CD, and I uploaded that footage to this new website. It was called YouTube. And that's...
No, not YouTube.
Yes.
What year is this, Dre?
This is still 2000.
I'll tell you, mate, the internet didn't really get started till 2000. So you were pretty head of the pack there.
Yeah, the internet was out. It was just social media wasn't out. The internet was a thing. Yeah, so the internet did exist. There were websites and stuff, but it was very new. With YouTube, I wasn't thinking this was not a big plan because YouTube wasn't a thing. It was just a new website where you could put up footage, but nobody was really thinking about that in 2000, including myself. I just put the footage up just so I had that footage somewhere where I wouldn't lose it. So I'm playing ball. I'm playing ball overseas. I played in a couple different places in my first couple of years. And maybe 6 months after I put that video up on YouTube, I just went to the website just to check on it, make sure it was still there. And there were comments on the video. Just random people leaving comments. And they were saying, well, who are you? Where do you play? Who taught you? How often do you practice? Can you make more videos? Because they were just asking about the stuff they saw me doing. Can you make videos about dribbling? Or can you make videos about dunking? Or can you make videos about how to shoot a jump shot? And what I realized, Sinjin, was that there was an audience of underserved athletes who were just like me. They were just younger than me. They didn't have anyone to teach them how to play, but they wanted to learn. So instead of back in my day in the 90s, if you wanted to learn how to play ball and you didn't know anyone, you were on your own. You just had to figure it out, trial and error. Whereas this generation, they could go to the internet and crowdsource information. which is what they were doing because they just found me. It's not like they went online and typed in my name. Nobody knew me. They were just looking for basketball, and I happened to be providing it. So I realized that I could just take the workouts that I was already doing, bring my little cheap camera. This is before we had cameras on our phones. So you had to have a camera and a phone. So I could bring my camera to the gym and just film myself, which is what I started doing. And I would bring my camera, since then I didn't even have a tripod. So I would just put the camera on the bench next to the court and just let it record everything that I was doing. And then I would just take it home and just cut up the pieces that I thought were interesting. But again, this is not a grand scheme. This is not like I all of a sudden became this big influencer out of that. And my main focus is I want to play ball. I just want to play professional ball and just build up my career. So this went on for sporadically. I would put videos on YouTube every 3 months, 6 months, once a month, whenever I felt like it, whenever I got around to it. Because again, who cares about videos on YouTube in 2007? Nobody cares. So around 2000, fast forwarding here, I found myself unemployed from basketball. I had played in a few places up to this point. I was unemployed. The phone's not ringing. So anyone who knows anything about the entertainment industry, the sports industry is similar, where you have the people at the top who are always in the headlines. But then you have those people on the fringes who are kind of wondering, after one job ends, you're not sure when the next job is coming. And you're calling your agent or your manager like, hey, what's up? And they're like, hey, just stay ready. Nothing they can tell you. They just tell you the same thing, just stay ready. So that's my agent's telling me the phone's not ringing. And I'm getting to my mid to late 20s at this point. And I said, hey, I need a real solid plan here. Like when I was 23, it was cool. But now when I'm 26, 27, I need to know what's happening. So at this point, I had a little bit of an audience from these ball players online. And I had just finished reading Tim Ferriss' 4-Hour Work Week, the book that kind of blew him up. And it reminded me of a book I had read about a decade earlier, which was Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki.
It's a great book.
Right. So in my mind, I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but after basketball. I wanted to play basketball first, then I would become an entrepreneur. And I wasn't ready for basketball to be over, but the phone was not ringing. So the combination of both Tim and what I remember from Kiyosaki was fresh in my mind at that time. And Tim had a hands-on experiment. If you have an audience online, here's how you can test out a product. Actually, you don't even need an audience. Here's how you can test out a product idea online and maybe start selling digital products. Again, this is 2000 around this time. So this is when this is relatively new to create a digital product and sell it online. This was not a normal thing to do. And there wasn't an easy way to do it. You had to kind of know what you were doing. This is HTML websites, right? At this time, right? So I went and got this free hosting platform. I put this one-page website up. This is all Tim's experiment. I'm following his instructions. And you put a page up and you say, this is the name of my product. This is a little bit about what it does. And then you put a button that says, buy this product. So I created 2 products based on basketball, one for dribbling and one for shooting, basically training programs to learn how to get better at basketball. And the price was $4 US dollars. So this is relatively cheap stuff. And he said, put the button on there. And if somebody clicks the button, on the next page, you don't actually give them the product or sell it to them. You say this product is under construction, but if you want it, when it's ready, we'll email you. So put your email address in. And that was a way of testing out the market. And he said, take $5, put it in Google AdWords, run ads to a keyword based on your product. So if you get people coming in and putting in their email address, you have a viable product because people are looking for it and they want that at the price. And the price was important because they need to know the price. So I did it and I got some email addresses. I said, all right, I'll make the product. So I go make the product. And again, I made it in one day. This was just PDFs, one for dribbling, one for shooting. And I used as my source material, Sinjin, was just the videos I was already putting on YouTube. So I didn't have to create anything new. So I then announced it to my audience, the people who already knew me, because you don't test with the people who already know you because they might just say yes because they like you. You got to test people who don't know you. So I went to the people who knew me and told them, I got this new product. It's called Hoop Handbook, still exists to this day. And I said, here's the website. You can go buy it. And that night I made a sale. Somebody bought the product. And I remember when I got the email and said, congratulations, you made a sale for it. I said, I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life because
Awesome.
Yeah, because I mean, the phone's still not ringing for basketball. I was hoping that it would ring. We'll get to that in a second. But what I had just done was I had taken an idea out of my head, turned it into something real, put a price on it, and turned it into money. And I said, I could do that forever because I got a lot of ideas. If I can just do this on the internet, and it was no cost. I had just become an entrepreneur, and it didn't cost me any upfront capital, which my parents, you need money to be an entrepreneur. Now we didn't need it. You could just do it for free. It cost you literally nothing. So I knew this is what I was going to keep doing. Now, luckily the phone did ring again. I did keep playing ball till 2015. But from 2000 through 2015, basically the second half of my professional career, I had two careers going. And more people know me from the internet and YouTube than know me from actually playing professional sports. Very rarely does somebody in America, they don't watch basketball overseas. They know if you say you play overseas, they understand, but they don't actually watch the game. So if you play overseas and you're a pro ball player, you come back to America, nobody knows who you are. They might look at you in the mall and say, "Are you look like a basketball player?" But they don't know you. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying.
Right. So when I'm here and I get in the elevator in my building, nowadays I don't get it because I have a suit on. But when I'm wearing a t-shirt and shorts, people say, "You look like a basketball player." I say, "Yeah, I used to be," but they have no idea who I am, right? Because it's not like I was on TV.
Yeah.
But anybody who recognizes me, if I'm at the mall or something, it's from YouTube 100% of the time, which is just ironic, right? Because you try to be a pro athlete, but they know you from YouTube. So I kept making these programs. I made more products for basketball players. So I'm making these little sales, $5, $10, $20. But I'm doing it in volume because I have a big audience, because this period from about to about 2000 was a period, Sinjin, when there were a lot of people using social media, and we'll include YouTube in that, but they were not on social media. So the people who were producing had a great opportunity because you got all these viewers, but not so much competition. It was around 20, everybody started producing. So then it became a little bit harder. So that period, I did really well on the internet, just selling products, and I'm still playing ball. And at this time, I also, about 2000, this is when the ball players started asking me questions about my approach, because this is when I'm putting videos out. I started putting videos out every day. 2000, I started that. And again, this is also because I was unemployed. So I'm like, all right, I got to make something happen. So I just started doing videos every day. And it's also because YouTube was purchased by Google. And Google said, the more your videos get viewed, you can make ad revenue. So I said, okay, so more videos, more views equals more money. And right now I'm unemployed. So let me just make more videos. So that's what I did. So I just kept making videos and I started doing it every day. I'm putting out content every day since. That was 2000. So we're going on 14, 15 years of this, between written audio and video material. And they started asking, why do you show up to the gym every day to work out? How do you get the confidence to perform in the game the way you do in practice? Or, you got cut from your high school team. Because I would answer their questions in the comments. Every once in a while, I would make a talking head video, just talking about high school tryouts or the things that I went through to make it. Why'd you keep trying when things weren't working? Or how do you get started with this stuff? Because people either A, want to play basketball professionally, or B, they wanted to get known on the internet, because now being known on the internet was a career aspiration, right? That hadn't been a thing before. And I was known on the internet. I started talking about discipline, confidence, and mental toughness, and personal initiative. And it was for the basketball players because they were the ones asking. But what happened, Sinjin, is that people who didn't play ball started catching these messages, because I started doing this video every Monday. Because up to this point, every video I put out was basketball on the court, me showing you how to practice. I started doing these talking videos every Monday called the Weekly Motivation, where I started with the mindset stuff. And I remember I made the first one. I was actually in the gym when I made the first one. I said, I'm going to start doing these talking videos every Monday. If you all want these, I'll do it. But if not, it's cool. We'll just stick to the basketball. And the audience overwhelmingly said, Dre, we want it. Talk about mindset. We want to hear you break stuff down. Because they always liked the way that I was able to just articulate and explain things. I could do it, but I also could explain it. And that was really my competitive advantage versus most athletes, is I can explain the game better than many of them can explain the game and anything that I do. So the Weekly Motivation, I did that every Monday, Sinjin, for 400 Mondays in a row.
Well done.
And that became the foundation of where we are today. And I'll fast forward through the story in a second. But what happened is a bunch of people who did not play sports started catching those videos. And they would say, Dre, I don't play ball. I'm not trying to play ball. But that mindset stuff you talk about, that applies to everybody. Anyone can use that. And that told me, okay, when I get done with basketball, I know that I'm not going to be as popular with the basketball audience because I'm not going to be out there doing it every day. Like any industry you're going to be in and you're really going to be relevant to the audience, you got to be actively in the game. I knew once I started playing ball, I wasn't going to be in the game as much. So my relevance to that audience would start to taper off. So what will I do when I stop playing? Because I was already thinking about this 5 years before I stopped.
Well done. And only reason I want to jump in there is because when I've hung out with high performance athletes, not because I'm one myself, but I've been very fortunate. A lot of them are so singularly focused, Dre, on their sport, they're forgetting to plan ahead for their future.
Right. And what was kind of unlucky and lucky for me was that I had these periods where I was not employed. So I had to think about this. Like, I might not play again right now. It might be done right now. Right. So I didn't know that the phone was going to ring again. I wasn't sure. So I was already thinking about what's the next step, because the next step might be today. I had no idea it would go till 20. You're not guaranteed, right? That's kind of the way it goes. It was when you play professionally overseas, the contracts are pretty much year by year. You don't get these 5-year guaranteed contracts like you see on TV. That's not how it goes. So I was already thinking about that stuff. So by 2015, when I stopped playing, I'm already writing books. I have courses, I have programs, I have an audience, and I have a framework. I had all this stuff in place by the time I stopped playing. So I was not the normal athlete turned entrepreneur, simply because I had already started my transition while I was still playing. Whereas most athletes, if I had been like how you described, let's say I had been, playing for the New York Knicks or the Lakers, and I had a guaranteed contract, I would not have started doing any of this stuff. Or I would have been doing it, but I would have been dabbling. Like, I wouldn't have been serious about it. And I would have been starting at zero in 2015 when I stopped playing. But because of the reality in my situation, I was looking at it like, hey, if the phone never rings again, I need something that works right now. So I was much more focused on it, and I was treating it like a business, because look, this might be the only thing I have. So it just happened to work out that way. So that the bad luck kind of became good luck. So fast forward to today, I stopped playing in 2015, and I've been doing all that. Everything I told you, I've been doing all that ever since. Just I stopped the basketball. Everything except basketball, I'm still doing. So still writing, still speaking, still writing, speaking, coaching courses, mindset stuff. And that's what I've been doing. And that's what our company is called, Work on Your Game. And the whole framework is called Work on Your Game. So that's where it all came from.
That's an awesome story. What I like about it is you were so ahead of the other guys. You were in sort of third or fourth gear. Your timing was sublime because, of course, social media, people were consuming more than they were creating. And you were consuming content, and you were creating that bank. You're almost like a back catalog. The musicians, they've got that massive back catalog, and they're constantly creating. So You had this really good base to go off. So where does this drive of yours come from?
Being a competitor. I've always been a competitive person. I think that's why I was attracted to sports, and luckily I had the physicality to go with it.
This drive, this competitive nature, what was it as you were socialized, as you were brought up, that created the mindset that you now have, and all the things that you've just spoken to us about? Where did that come from? What nurtured it? What molded it?
That's a great question. I would have to give credit to my parents. My mother's an educator. So I have one sister who's a year older than me, and she's a college professor right now.
Excellent.
So my mom was the one who handled the educational side. My dad was there. My mom handled the educational side. So she did a very good job, and she had us reading from a very early age. So I've always been into books. So that's where I got the reading and the writing came from that, from a very young age.
Why is it that some people have this drive and, get the things that they deserve because they go and get them, versus some people kind of like drifters versus deciders or drivers? Like, could we unpack that a wee bit?
Yeah, it was 50 Cent who, wrote 50 with Law with Robert Greene. He's also my favorite. He's my favorite rapper, even though he doesn't rap anymore. Still my favorite.
Yeah.
I heard him say this once. He said, ambition is not a learned behavior trait. It's something you either have it or you don't. And I believe that, because I talk to a lot of people. I'm sure you do as well. And I have always been ambitious. I've always been an ambitious person. I always had these big goals. Even I'm in high school, not playing, but I'm thinking I could be a pro basketball player. It makes no sense whatsoever, but I still believed it. Like going to college, D3, still think I can play pro. Get out of college, nobody's asking me to play pro. I'm still thinking I'm going to make it, right? So I always had these ideas, and the internet came around when I was in college. I saw it, and I said, and this is around the time, around early 2000s, when you had like make your own internet stuff, like your own web pages and like Yahoo GeoCities, and you can have your own websites and stuff like that. I said, I'm going to have a website that's by me and about me. That was in 2000. I told myself that. I didn't get a website until about 2000, but I knew, because I saw where it was going. Now, I'm not that much of a genius. It's not like I started a .com or anything, but I saw that it was going to be a thing. So that ambition has always been inside me. And even when I was in college, I remember my last 2 years, because the school I went to, I'm a business major. I have a business degree. So the last 2 years, you're in all your major classes, and you see the same people in every class. So it's about 50 of us, 40 or 50 of us in all the same classes. And I'm looking around at these people, and I'm like, I'm nothing like these people. I know I wasn't like them, because they were doing all the schoolwork and doing the homework and studying and passing the test. And I was doing enough. I knew how to do enough to
Yeah.
survive academically. Like my mom's an educator, so I knew how to do enough to get a C.
Yeah.
I was good enough to do that. But they were like actually dedicated to the work because what school prepare you for. School prepares you to be an employee. I knew I didn't want to be an employee. I'm looking at these people. I said, I know I don't want to do what they're going to do because if I go into competition with them, they're going to beat me at being an employee. So I knew I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to, it just didn't sit right with me. I said, I'm going to do enough to get out of here and get my degree, but I'm going in a different direction. And again, I'd already read Kiyosaki by this point. So I knew that there was another way. I knew there was another opportunity. I said, basketball first. Then after that, I'm going to do what he was talking about. I couldn't have explained it, but I knew it was something.
That's really good insight. That's very smart for a young age to see that, just have that insight. Next question would be then, why is it that so many people stop learning as soon as they finish college?
That is a good question. I think it's because the system is, first of all, it's set up in that way that, I mean, to be successful in school, whatever level you go to, you just have to follow whatever the process is there. But there's no mandate to do things on your own volition. As a matter of fact, they may not even want you to do things on your own volition because that might open your mind up too much. And then you start thinking a little bit too independently. And before you know it, they can't control you anymore. So that's a cynical way of looking at it, but you could look at that as true depending on what you're reading.
How have you dealt with setbacks and slumps and funks where there's a lot of rejection, the phone isn't ringing, nothing's working out, you're not getting the traction? I think I've got an answer, but I'm really interested in yours. What's your strategy for getting through?
Man, when it was happening, I wasn't really thinking about that. So in that period, let's say 2009, the phone's not ringing. It rang again probably about a year later. But in that time period, or even before that, before I even started playing, and the phone wasn't ringing, and I'm working at Foot Locker and Bally Total Fitness, there was no way I was going to give up because I didn't see any alternative. What else am I going to do? Basically saw I had two options, or technically three. One option was to just do nothing and be a loser. I didn't see that as possible. The other one was go the traditional route, which is kind of what my mom was a little bit hinting at that first year out of school, because she doesn't know anything about professional basketball overseas. And I'm telling her I'm going to play, but nothing's happening. I'm still living in my parents' house, and she's like, and my mom's in education. She's like, you have a degree. If you go downtown and put in your paperwork, you can be a substitute teacher, and you can imagine me being a substitute teacher. Right. So that's what she was doing, because
she was using her frame of reference, which
yeah, exactly. Yeah. She was just trying to get me some traction as an adult, and which is a good idea, but there was no way that I was going to do that. And the other thing was, let me just keep pushing on this basketball thing till it works. And that was my mindset. I'm going to keep pushing on this thing until it works. So that's the whole mental toughness angle that I now talk to people about, is that you're guaranteed to face a challenge in life. Everybody's going to face a challenge. And the bigger your ambition, the more challenge you're going to face. So the question is not if you're going to face a challenge, it's what are you going to do when you face it? And the biggest part is just you got to have the vision in your mind. Can you still see the vision of you becoming something that's bigger than where you are? As long as you have that vision that there's something bigger out there and you're still connected to that vision, even when you're having a rough go of it in the moment, as long as you can see that vision is going to help you get out of bed the next day. But when that vision is no longer there, when the lights are out, then it might be time for you to move on. But those lights never went out for me.
Yeah, so good, so good.
Again, I didn't see any other possibilities on top of the fact that I'm a competitor. So I wasn't competing against people. I was competing against the situation.
Nice.
It wasn't any person I was mad at. I was just mad at the circumstance. I said, I got to beat this circumstance.
Interesting you bring up this concept of competition. I often think as we get older and we get wiser and we learn and we read and we watch and we mimic and mentored or coached, is that your biggest competitor is actually yourself.
That's right.
And your former self. Like your past self, sometimes, we talk about the concept of identity a lot, which is a very powerful concept. And we won't have time to go into that in great detail, but the guests they get on the show, often our past self robs us of our future self and keeps sometimes dragging us back because we feel an attachment to what we should be rather than what we could be.
Yeah, so I can speak on that right there. I talk about that and when I talk about confidence, because a lot of people, confidence is a belief in your ability to do something. So when people think about confidence, they think of it as about boosting yourself and elevating and expanding yourself. And yes, that's part of it. But the most important part of confidence, especially the older you get, when you're trying to increase your confidence, is you giving yourself permission to no longer conform to being who you've always been. and no longer sticking to what you think everybody else thinks you should be. Because when you detach yourself from what you think you need to represent to everyone else, like your family and your kids and your coworkers and your community, and be who you actually want to be, that's a big leap you can take. And it only takes a second. But many people get so tethered to what they think everybody else expects that they never make the change.
It's very, very important that we feel tethered, but until we untether or detach ourselves from what we think we should be and how we should conform. Because I always find when you get a few more haters in life, you don't necessarily leave people, you outgrow people because your level and trajectory of development is maybe just different and going in a different direction or a faster velocity than them. So I'm sort of hagging it, but like it's very, very important that we shouldn't conform and appease others. You have to back yourself in this life, right?
That's right. You got to have a vision. You got to have a goal. And a challenge for a lot of people. And we're recording this on the last day of a month. I don't know when this is coming out, but I always tell my audience, you need to write your goals down for the next month before the new month starts. And the new year is going to be starting. Write your goals down for New Year. And I tell people that your goals are like a script, the same way an actor or actress knows their line before they show up on set. You got to know your lines before you show up to the show. So what are your goals? What are your plans? And goal is simply a plan for future success. And a lot of people don't have any plans for future success, and they wonder why they don't get it.
Yeah.
Just because you have the plan doesn't guarantee you're going to get it. But without a plan, you're guaranteed to not get it. So it's knowing what you want and committing it to paper, which is a simple discipline that a lot of people overlook, but it's a simple thing. And I've been writing down goals since the 90s, since I was a teen. I would always write down goals, not every month. It would usually be every year back then, but now it's every month. But just writing down what you want, even if you don't reach it. Like there are some months where I don't reach hardly any of the goals that I wrote down, but I still write them down every month. Right. And it's just a discipline. And that tells your subconscious mind that you're serious about it because it's a double entry. You think it, then you write it down. Makes it more serious.
I love that. I love the double entry. You think about it and then you think it down. It's a double entry and it sort of imprints onto your subconscious mind.
Right. And then you look at it. Yeah. You see it multiple times. So it imprints in it even more.
Tell us about the subconscious mind, Dre.
Wow. Well, I really started learning about that from Napoleon Hill. He talked about that a lot, about programming the subconscious. And there was an experiment that he said, do. I believe it was in Think and Grow Rich. Might have been a law of success, probably the law of success. He said, before you go to bed at night, really try to imprint on your mind what time you want to wake up the next day, right? Just give it a specific time. Just make up a time and tell it. And I did it that night. And this is crazy. I woke up at that exact moment as if like wide awake. Yeah, like wide awake as if somebody had woken me up. I was like, this is crazy. And when that happened, I said, okay, I got to start doing the subconscious mind thing and how much it really works, that you can really imprint a vision onto your subconscious. And your subconscious mind will go to work pulling you towards it and pulling it towards you. But again, it's a discipline. This is why you got to remind yourself of it over and over again. There's the whole concept of auto suggestions that you make to yourself, things that you say to yourself over and over again. So I wrote a whole book about that. The mental workbook is all about that, programming your subconscious mind. And every day I have I guess some people call it a mantra or an auto suggestion that I say to myself about who I am and where I'm going and the type of person that I need to be in my life. And it's a big part of the things that I've created.
Tell us about this concept of consistency versus intensity, because I think this is a big one.
Yeah. So I've always been big on consistency, that if you can show up 100 days in a row, that's more important than giving a level 100 effort one time, but then not doing it any other time. So that consistency of the same things, the same way every time, just showing up over and over again, even when you don't feel like showing up, that's really what separates the pros from the amateurs. You know, my background's in basketball. So just yesterday I saw this post on social media, like one of LeBron James, his teammate, had a really good game. He had like 28 points and 15 rebounds and had a good game. And there was a post like, yeah, it was an amazing game by him. I said, when he becomes a real superstar, you won't even post about him having a game like that because it's normal, right? You think about somebody like LeBron, he does that every night, but nobody says anything. Because he's normalized it, right? He's normalized having a great game. Michael Jordan, he had a great game every game, right? Every game was a great game. So it got to the point that you didn't even talk about it. Right? He just did it every day. And that's really to really be a superstar at what you do, to really be a true professional, you deliver every single time to the point that nobody's surprised that you did. It's surprising when you don't. And you just do it every single day. And that's the level of, yes, there's a level of conditioning yourself to do it and being prepared to do it, but that's much more of a mindset than it is a skill. It's a mindset, it's a mentality, it's a choice. Because you have to choose to do that, because there are going to be days you don't feel like doing it. Right? There are days Michael Jordan did not feel like, he probably didn't even feel like playing, let alone having a good game, let alone a great one. But he found ways to get himself ready to do it. LeBron as well. I'm sure there are nights he doesn't really feel like playing, and he's looking around at his teammates like these bums aren't picking up their slack, right? I shouldn't still have to do this, but he does it anyway. And that's what makes the special ones special, is that they do it at a super high level, and they do it so often that you don't even notice it anymore. That's the level that, if you want to be a true pro, that's where you got to get to.
I love that. Tell us about routines and rituals, like how important they are. I've coined this concept, and I'm sure it's not original, but I think your routines and rituals, it's like if you want to change your life, you change your daily habits. And the routines and rituals, I think, are scaffolding to success. What are your thoughts on that?
No, absolutely. I'm a big routine and ritual person. I'm sure you're a big morning routine person. A lot of successful people have morning routines, even evening routines. And, my wife says I'm like a train. It's like, I know exactly when you're going to get up. I know when you're leaving. I know when you're coming back.
So you're easy to assassinate. Not that we're going to do that, Dre. You're too much.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody said that to me once. Somebody will know exactly where you're at all times. I said, well, what are they going to do? Yeah, you know where I'm at. You still got to do something, right? So, so that's 100% correct. I am very, very routinized habits. I call myself a robot in a tongue-in-cheek type of way. But yeah, that discipline has always been a big thing for me. So when it comes to the routines and habits, it controls 85% of what we do. 85% of our thinking and actions are habitual, meaning we do it over and over again and we're not even consciously aware of it. So I tell people, if you want to change your life, it's not about you consciously making some big leap action right now. It's about changing the underlying every single day behaviors. When you start changing your habits, that's when the real change is going to occur. Because if you make one big conscious different thing, you do one big thing differently today consciously, the problem with that is you're going to go right back to the old habits tomorrow. And over the course of the next 2, 3, 4 years, you're going to be right back in the same place because your habits are going to pull you right back to the same spot. So it doesn't matter. It's kind of like somebody winning the lottery. They're used to being at minimum wage. They win the lottery, they get $10 million, but their habits haven't changed. So they end up right back in the same place because their habits are going to pull them back to where the habits have them. So you got to change the underlying behaviors to really make a big change in life. And the challenge for this, even though it's 100% true, challenge for many people doing this, Sinjin, is that it's not exciting, it's boring, it's monotonous, and it takes a lot of time. And many people don't want to do that. And that's the reason why many people don't change.
I love that because your mate, Tim Ferriss, and the 4-Hour Workweek, he says, it's a Chinese proverb, chop wood, carry water, like do the boring work. But the thing is we get distracted and there's something shiny over here, or like you say, you just don't feel like you want to do it. But that's when you really believe in yourself and you do, I go to the gym and there's days I don't want to go to the gym, but I go to the gym and I do the things that my PT tells me to do, because then you have a belief in yourself because you haven't let yourself down. So why is it, Dre, this is gold, why is it that most people find change so hard?
The law of inertia.
Yeah, come on, unpack that.
The law of inertia states an object in motion shall remain in motion, or an object not in motion shall remain not in motion until or unless acted upon by an outside force.
Yeah, Newton's law of motion, right?
Right. So because people are already in their state, whatever state you're in, if you're doing something, it's easier to keep doing something. You're doing nothing, it's easier to keep doing nothing. In order to break inertia, you need more energy than you need to maintain it, which means it's easier to keep doing the same thing you've been doing than it is to change what you've been doing. And change is very difficult for people because it often means you're going to move out of your comfort zone. Your comfort zone is usually what allows the inertia to set in. To break the inertia, you have to get out of your comfort zone. And getting out of your comfort zone is kind of like a dog who goes to the edges of an electric fence. You start to get those little shocks, right? And the shocks that human beings get are not like in your collar, like a little electric in your collar, like the dog. But the shock that human beings get when they go around too close to their electric fence is fear, anxiety, stress, worry. And they respond to that fear, anxiety, stress, and worry the same way the dog does, by going back to the comfort zone of what they're used to. And this is what stops a lot of people from changing. It's not that they don't want to, and it's not that they can't see the possibility for change. Okay, I could do this. This will change. I can do this. I can do this. People see what they could do, and they even think about it, and they even start to take the steps. When they get close to the edge, they get cold feet, they get nervous, and their subconscious mind, their comfort zone, starts screaming at them and start throwing everything at you. It starts throwing every worry, every anxiety, every fear, every possibility of this going wrong at you until it comfortably scares you strongly enough that you change your mind and you go back to doing the same stuff that you were already doing. This is the reason why people don't change. Not because they don't want to. It's not because they don't try. It's just that they can't overcome the power of the comfort zone trying to scare them back into the old place.
So good. There's a real cost to comfort, eh?
That's right.
We love certainty. Our brain, our amygdala, it craves certainty. And, on the other side of fear is what? When you can conquer your
everything
fear,
you want.
Everything you want. Say that again, Dre.
All the things that people talk about wanting is on the other side of dealing with that discomfort. Because you have to get out of your comfort zone. By definition, it's going to be uncomfortable. But people don't want to be uncomfortable. And often the discomfort doesn't even last that long. It's just a moment of discomfort you got to deal with in order to get into the new space. And then after you do it, the new thing, you experience a new thing a little bit. Now your brain adjusts to it. The human animal is a very adjustable animal. It's very adjustable. If you didn't have access to water for a day or two, your body would adjust. If you had no water for a week, your body would adjust. Even if you're used to eating a lot, your body would adjust very quickly. You just have to deal with a little bit of discomfort. It's kind of like when people go through a recovery process, right, from alcohol or drugs. That first couple of days in there is crazy, right? Because your body is screaming for the drug. But after about 2-3 days, you start to feel normal because the body realizes, okay, I'm not going to get it. Let me just adjust to the new normal. And that works with our minds as well.
What are some of the quotes or the maxims or the mantras that you live by, like your go-tos?
Of course, my favorite one is work on your game. You got to give myself credit for that one. But I like Dan Kennedy. You familiar with him?
Yeah, very, very familiar with Dan Kennedy. Yeah.
Yeah, so one of the things Dan Kennedy said, his is a little bit longer, but what he says is, if you don't find something that is blocking you from getting to your desires utterly unacceptable, you will not stir up enough energy to fix it, to change the situation. And when something is in your way and you allow it to slow you down or dissuade you, you will be slowed and dissuaded. You have to be, what did he say? You can't just be worried. You have to be like terrified. You can't just be annoyed. You have to be angry. And that energy, when you are able to pull up that energy, then it allows you to move to change. So Tony Robbins, anytime you want to make change in life, you got to change your standards.
What would be some advice for someone that is probably battling a bit with their mindset, know they've got potential inside them, but haven't realized it? What would be some of the advice that you'd give them?
They have potential inside them, but haven't realized it is, first of all, they got to decide where they want to be. All right, what's the outcome? What exactly do you want to achieve? That's the starting point of, paraphrasing Napoleon Hill, the starting point of all achievement is a burning desire for an outcome. So what is it that you want to achieve? That's the first step. Second thing is, what do they surmise is going to take in order to get there? What steps will need to be taken? What would need to be true in order for that to be true? So for you to get to this outcome, what needs to be true? Or for that to happen, what needs to be true? Just keep working backwards until you have somewhat of we call it over here, the roadmap in reverse of what exactly you want to achieve, working backwards, deconstructing your goal. And then the third question, and this is the most important one, the one that most people never ask themselves is, who do I need to be? How do I need to change fundamentally? How do I need to change internally? How do I need to change as a person? How does what I see in the mirror need to be different in order for me to actually do these steps in order to get to this outcome? Because if you were already that person, you would already be able to do those steps, so you would already have done them. So something has to change internally, fundamentally about you as who you're being, so that you can do the thing, you can get to the outcome. So that's the be, do, have process. You map it out backwards, but you apply it, be, do, and have.
I love it, Dre. I love it. What happens to someone's psychology when they don't do what deep down they know they need to do?
Well, first of all, they lose respect for themselves. They lose a little bit of trust in themselves, because if you tell yourself you're going to do something and you don't do it, now it hurts your confidence, because the root word of confidence is confide, right? Confide means to tell yourself something in confidence, or something that is like a pact that you're making with yourself. You're confiding in yourself. But if you break that pact, well, if somebody did that to you, you wouldn't trust them anymore, right? Because they told you a lie. So we as humans, we know every lie that we've ever told ourselves. Like every time we tell ourselves we're going to do something and don't do it, we know. So this is why some people have really broken confidence, and it's hard to build it back up because they know that they lied to themselves before and they'll lie to themselves again. So the most important thing that happens, the biggest thing that happens when you don't follow through on your own word is you hurt yourself. You don't trust yourself as much. You don't respect yourself as much. And you don't have that confidence in yourself. So it starts with, let's make a small commitment that you can actually follow through. And if we need to do it that way, if we need to take baby steps, let's do it. We can start with a big thing if you're ready for it. But whatever you tell yourself you're going to do, you have to follow through on. And that's self-accountability. That's really what that is about. Self-accountability. Do you hold yourself accountable the same way that your boss would hold you accountable at work? Because you wouldn't tell your boss you're going to do something and not do it. You might get fired. All right. You can't tell your parents you would do something and not do it. You get grounded. All right. You tell the judge you're not going to do something and don't do it. You go to jail. Right. So, but when it comes to ourselves, we got ourselves off the hook all the time. So you got to give yourself the same respect.
I love that, Dre. It's like holding yourself to a higher standard. I think when you don't meet your standards you set yourself, you break a psychological contract with yourself.
That's right.
Now, before we go, if people are liking what they're hearing, how do they get hold of you? How do they connect into you? How do they get hold of some of your resources? Where do they go to?
The best place to find me, I'm on all the social media, so whatever ones you like, I'm on it. I'm probably most active on Instagram, which is just my name, @Dre Baldwin, but we publish every single day on every platform, so LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, all the other ones. We're on all of them. As far as my book, my latest book is called The Third Day, The Decision That Separates the Pros from the Amateurs, is right up there if you're watching on video. Nice. So I send people, if you're in the USA, free copy, just cover the shipping. We send international as well. New Zealand and Australia, I'll tell you to go to Amazon because it will take us forever to get that book to you. But if you're in the USA, go to Third Day Book. The book's free, cover the shipping. If you're going to Amazon, the book's $20 USA dollars. And Work on Your Game University, that's our coaching program. That's the only place I do any coaching. This is Work on Your Game University.
Beautiful, my man. Thank you so much for giving us your time.
Thank you for sharing your platform. Thanks for the opportunity.
You're very welcome.